Woo, indeed. Yes, you are correct to applaud as such. Hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. The critically acclaimed and Golden Globe-winning Mr. Robot is preparing to enter its fourth and final season, people, culminating in what promises to be a jaw-dropping 12-episode expanded run. It takes place around Christmas in 2015. With a bunch of questions still left to answer, the whole thing kicks off in just a few short days on October 6th. But joining me right now to talk about the emotional roller coaster ride that was making Mr. Robot, oh man, Darlene herself, the great Carly Chaikin is here, everybody. How you feel about Carly? I'm excited. They're excited. You hear that? You're on notice, home viewers. Everyone's very excited. We're going to bring her out in just a moment, but first, I believe we have a peek at the final season, so let's go ahead, run that clip.
To get back to work.
You go down this path, it'll never end. There'll always be something else. Another symbol to destroy, more people to save. This is an endless war. What you're about to do is crossing a line.
It's a little late for that, don't you think?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the great Carly Chaikin is right here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
4 seasons, an incredible show, an amazing achievement, an incredible character. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'm so excited you're here. How are you doing?
Thanks. Is this like a weird way to sit?
Is it? I don't know. Am I doing it too?
Okay.
I don't know. They seem to approve.
Like,
is it because of the pillow? Is that what's? Is that throwing you off?
I just want to.
You want to make sure you settled in appropriately.
Yeah.
You look very relaxed. Had you said nothing, I wouldn't have questioned it.
Great. Now that I brought attention to it.
Well, I mean,
everybody look at me sitting.
The hell do I know?
Let's move on.
They're sitting just as comfortably as you
Great.
are. I think it's fine. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, sitting aside, what's life like right now? You guys just had your premiere last night.
We did.
Oh my gosh.
So fun. I was so excited. I got to see the first episode. It's so funny because we see it at the same time that everybody else does. Obviously, this is an exception because we had a premiere. But it was really cool to have that and to see it on a big screen too, which we never get to do.
Well, I was going to say, how often does that opportunity present itself? Because this show is so beautifully shot, and Sam had so many interesting choices and such an amazing vision. So to see it at that size, it must have been a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And also, too, in a theater setting, just like with a group of people, right? Like bunch of people. It's just a whole new way to kind of experience it.
Yeah.
And you guys, forgive me for my ignorance here, but have you ever done that before in any of the previous seasons? Or no you did the premiere because it's like the final farewell?
Yeah, we've never gotten one until now.
That's pretty amazing.
Special. Yeah.
It is pretty special. I also saw, the reason I know that you were out having a great time is because you took over the Mr. Robot Instagram.
Yes, I did.
Which you did for them as well, I think, back during Tribeca. How did you become like the go-to? Is it just because you're awesome and they know it? Like, how did you become that person?
I think because I just don't really care about trying to look cool, and so I just think that they enjoy my stupidity sometimes.
Well, I think that's a big part, not the stupidity, the not caring. That's a big part of social media success, is kind of just not overthinking it and having fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, big premiere last night. Everybody's out having a good time. Is it bittersweet? I mean, that's a dumb question to ask. Obviously it is. But, how do you balance those and reconcile those two things? Is this the first time you saw everybody since wrapping up?
We all are close. I see Christian a lot and talk to Grace. And so, this was the first time we were all together, and me, Rami, Christian, and Sam all introduced the episode last night. And before we went in, I was like, you guys, this is the last time we're going to be doing something like this together. and I made everybody, I was like, put your hands in. And I was like, Mr. Robot on 3, 1, 2, 3. And then, it was very fun. Very cute.
And you guys, you wrapped up, I think it was in June-ish, or over the summer you guys wrapped up, give or take?
End of July.
End of July. Okay, so it was over the summer. Does it feel like it's done yet, or does it still just feel like maybe we'll go back next year? Like, have you processed the closure? Yeah.
Because I was saying I'm used to being done with it. I'm just not used to not going back. Right. Having that year and a half off though in between, I think really helped and kind of made, it like an easier segue into life without it, because it kind of felt like, oh, the show's done, and then it was like, nope, you get one more. And so it was like, oh, yay. So that really made, you got to feel like what life was like without going back. But it's weird. It's weird. I'm also like, I don't have a job now.
You got a hell of a resume. People have seen what you can do. When did you find out that things would be wrapping up after season 4? Because I know Sam had said, I forget where I read this, but like when they sat down to write this season, he didn't know that it was going to be the final season. It kind of came about organically as he was writing it. He was like, well, how much story do we have left? And he decided. So like, when did you guys find out?
We've always known that it was going to be 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Which one was great to know that, but also know that like there was an ending. This wasn't something that was just going to be dragged on, and it's like, let's see what we can like pull out of our butts and like come up with. But it was kind of, is it going to be 4? Is it going to be 5? So when they said it was going to be just 4, we were all kind of like, are you sure? Like, you don't want to do one more? Yeah. But the story was
Then you saw
done.
the story, and you were like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think of that, like, because your show and a couple other shows, I know Stranger Things is like 5 or 6, 4 or 5. Like, whenever you have that, it could be one way or another. I wonder, like, what that does every year when you go back of, like, is this going to be the one? But you guys knew going in, like, all right, I guess this is going to be it.
Yeah.
One of the things I always get to talk about when people come through is, like, season 3, season 4 for a show. That's usually when, like, everyone's hitting their stride. They're in their A game. They're most comfortable. Everyone's kind of figured things out. Was there a sense of that, and did that make it all the more difficult to say, like, okay, now that I finally figured this out, I got to walk away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting, and, this happened too on my last show, Suburgatory, I feel like in the later seasons that I'm like, am I doing this right? Like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. And it's because, like, the character settles into you so much that it does make you feel like you're really not doing that much because it's just, like, in you now. But it definitely does feel like I know who she is. I know how she says things. I know how she thinks. But what's also been so great for me is, like, each season my character has been so different.
Yeah, that's kind of like the gift from Sam, right? It's all these different facets that you've gotten to explore with Darlene.
Yeah. So as much as I do know her, like, season 3 was really interesting because playing her so vulnerable. And my instinct was I wanted to be tough and, like, I wanted to kind of react how I used to react. And so it was interesting and fun to see, like, what does it look like when her walls are down? But it's been cool to, like, I've been able to explore, like, every side of her. Yeah.
Would you say, looking at season 4, was this the one maybe that challenged you or pushed you the most, or did it kind of demand all of those, like, skills you've sort of acquired over the past 3 seasons? How would you assess it without spoiling anything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think that, working with Sam has been the best, like, acting class ever. But this season really was, like, I laid it all out there. It was a lot. It was a lot. I think we're all, like, proud of the work we did, but, it's definitely the last season, the most intense. Yeah. We kind of, like, balls to the wall.
Which is pretty exciting. One of the things I thought was really interesting about what you just said is that, like, as for you, when you spend more time with a character, that's when you start to question am I doing this right? Am I even doing this? Which, like, are you someone, we hear about this a lot on the stage as well, like, are you someone that struggles with imposter syndrome of, like, at some point everyone's going to realize like, a lot of people that make it and have the level of success that you have, they often talk about how one day I'm going to wake up, everybody's going to realize I don't know what I'm doing. And, like, this is something they carry around with. It's like an anxiety. Is that something you've ever felt? Or you only feel like, am I doing this right once you've spent time? Like,
I think that we all kind of, having taken that year and a half off, it took a second to get back into it and be like, oh, we're doing this again. Right. You know, I'm more just like, are people going to keep giving me jobs? And, like, you know, after my last show, it was like everyone, you know, because when I said I wanted to be an actor, I grew up in LA. Yeah. And so when I was like, I want to be an actress, everyone was like, you and everybody else, like, join the club. Yeah. And I just knew, and I didn't even do plays or anything. I played sports. And so everyone was like, what are you talking about?
What'd you play?
Volleyball.
You played volleyball.
And now I golf. I'm an avid golfer.
I saw that on your Instagram that you were an avid golfer.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
That's, like, my new goal,
Is
to like, play in tournaments.
Really?
Yeah.
How's
And,
that
like,
going?
start a golf clothing line. You heard it here first.
That's an exclusive. We're taking that.
Yeah.
The Carly Chaikin
Spread the word.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just curious.
Oh,
So you
no,
played sports, and you said you wanted to be an actor, and everyone was like, yeah, sure, so does everyone else. And
Yeah. So my dad was like, you know, my dad's a doctor. Like, no one's in my... So my dad was like, okay, you have a year. And I was 18. And I was like, okay. And it was like a week before it was up, and I got The Last Song, which was my first movie. And then I got Spurgatory. And so then we were like, okay, is this just like luck?
Yeah.
And I'm like, is anybody gonna give me another job? So I think so it was like nice to get another job, but I think that's kind of where I'm like, you know, am I gonna keep working?
Yeah. Have you thought about, like, do you have any desire at all, having never done plays and stuff, to, like, do anything on stage, or is that, like, kind of scary? What do you think of that?
No, I ended up doing this one play, and I just did it for a weekend because someone was going to be gone. And it was so fun. It was like the biggest adrenaline rush ever. And it's totally something that I want to do. I don't know how, I'm always curious how people do it every single night, all the time. I'm like, don't you get sick of it? But apparently you don't.
No, apparently that adrenaline rush really carries you through the
Yeah.
monotony of it. Yeah.
So it's definitely something that I would love to do. Because you also are actually getting to act from start to finish. You know, it's not like cut, reset.
Right.
You know, you are really just like in it and have to stay there.
Exactly. It's a prolonged period of time where you just have to be present and be that character.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. When you made that transition for that weekend, were you surprised at all, like what skill set did transfer and what didn't? Like, was it a weird period of, like, having to adjust on the fly and figure out how to operate in this zone? Like,
yeah. Well, so for me, like, I feel like I'm a very, like, subtle actor. Like, I'm not someone that, like, projects and is like, blah. You know, with TV and film, it's like you get to see it up close. So it was, you know, kind of, I felt like I was exaggerating, but I wasn't. But that is, like, the one thing that's kind of like people in the back row need to feel what you're doing.
yeah, the cheap seats, as it were. You got to play the cheap seats. You know, we talked about earlier your instinct to play Darlene a certain way, and seeing things play out over. Was it a collaborative environment when you have somebody like Sam who has such a specific vision and he knows exactly where he wants the story to go and how he wants every piece of the puzzle to be placed? Was there room for you to explore and try different things and experiment with Darlene, or was it always, this is the area I need Darlene to be in right now? Like, what was that relationship like?
You know, Sam is the most unbelievable person to work with because you are working with him. He really values our opinion, and it is, you know, not just being like, it's collaborative, like it actually is. You know, a lot of the times we would be like, oh, this is, you know, blah, 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 and be like, we're going to go to Sam. And then Sam would end up explaining it, and then we'd like walk away with our tail between our legs and be like, okay, you're right. But there is, you know, he does end up changing a lot of stuff. We change a lot of stuff on the fly of just like, I don't think, you know, and we'll email it the writers, and I'm like, I just don't think that I would say that here. I don't think that she'd be feeling like that. And if they agree, I mean, we have changed some stuff like that before. So he's always open to our opinions and our feelings because, you know, he's like, he knows the story better than us, but he's like, you know, like your character at this point better than I do, in like a different way. So it's the best work environment you could possibly ask for.
That's a really interesting point, like where that switch flips, where the creator is less familiar with the character than the person playing it because you spent so much time with them. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is this stuff, though, that, you know, especially in the other seasons where it's like, we didn't know everything. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I don't know why I'm doing this, but like, I'll just do it.
Trust at that point, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it was interesting, season 1, you know, it was like we had different directors and they didn't know that I was his sister. So it's like they didn't know, they couldn't direct me of like, Sam would be like, remember your relationship. And so it's interesting because like he knows all of these things that we're not privy to that we'll find out later. Yeah. So to like keep driving that story.
One of the great parts and one of the most rewarding parts of being a fan of this show, the other fans, is the community that's out there, like the Reddit threads that analyze everything. I was just like refreshing, getting ready for today, and I was going through the fandom wiki, and like the amount of detail. Like I thought I watched closely, but there's people that have like cataloged every model device people have used, user passwords, phone numbers. It is insane how much detail people glean from these episodes, and I'm curious how aware of that fandom you guys are when you're on set, when you're filming it, like, oh, we shouldn't do this because then they're going to think it means this and this or something like that. Do you guys ever talk about that stuff?
Yes. Yeah. It is. I mean, it's incredible, like, the people that watch this show and how I'm, you know, it's unbelievable. And I think Sam's trained people to watch it like that, though. Yeah. But we, especially this season, there are times when he's like, oh, we can't, like, linger on that for too long. People are going to think that this, like, means something. The best was like in last season when Darlene's in the safe house, I do puzzles all the time. Yeah. And so we were like, oh, we should have like a puzzle. And so I had one like glued and we brought it in and we just like took part of it off because she wasn't done with the puzzle. And everybody was like, oh my God, what does that mean? The trees are off. Like that part is cut out, and was like investigating, and Sam sent it to me and we were like, LOL. we just took part of the puzzle off. Yeah.
What is, this is going to seem like a silly question, but I too enjoy a good puzzle on a rainy day. What's the largest puzzle you've ever completed?
2,000 pieces.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
I'm a pretty, like, I don't want to say I'm a puzzler savant, but like I'm kind of a puzzler savant.
I think you can say it. Self-proclaimed puzzler savant, Carly
yeah.
Chaikin. Yeah, that's it.
I have a lot of different directions my career can go.
We're going to go in just a second to audience Q&A because I see we've got some in the room. We got a tweet out there that I want to read. But I think, I forget which season it was for, but Portia had come through, and she at that time, the live feed like stopped while they were doing their interview, and we had to reset and stuff. And she told us while the cameras were off that happens to her being on this show quite often when she goes to like an interview or a place, like something weird will happen with the lights or there'll be like a technical thing. And she had a theory that like there were real hackers out there following around. In your experience, has anything crazy like that happened to you?
There was one time where someone like got into my iCloud or there was something and I was like, oh my God, they're in my TV. They're in my house. They're watching me. They're like hooked up to this. And Sam, I like emailed Core, who was our tech, you know, expert. And he's like, okay, most hackers can't do what Darlene and Elliot can do. Like, they might have their iCloud, but they didn't hack into your entire life. And I'm like, right, yeah.
Yeah. Still a scary thought, though. I mean,
it's, like, yeah.
Especially being on this show, I imagine your paranoia is slightly heightened. Like
beyond. I mean, yeah. I'll like walk around and be like, I can take control over that. And like, you know, it's my mind has gone to some like, you know, I'm like, ooh, that could be bad.
I think I read it must have been from like when the show first started, but you guys all went, you and Sam, everybody went on like a hackers like seminar or like not like a retreat, but like, yeah. Did you retain any of that like knowledge, or what was that? Like, what did you guys learn?
We like just, went into this conference room, and I wish I can't remember. Yeah. But this guy who's like a big hacker kind of just talked to us about hacking and what they're capable of. And I think the most interesting thing that he said was he was like, name 10 ways to turn off a light bulb.
Wow.
And so we were like, unplug it, switch it off. And he's like, this is basically like the mind of a hacker is 10 ways to turn off a light bulb. Once you get, we're like, I don't know, what else do you do? And he's like, get creative. Yeah. Put a sheet over it. Yeah. Like, close your eyes, like different ways of like turning off that light bulb.
Yeah.
And so thinking about, getting from point A to point B, having to like figure out a way to get there, like that's unconventional and like creative in that way.
That's really cool. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. I want to make sure we have time for all of our audience questions. This first one is coming to us from Twitter. This is at Shirley AL. What's up, Shirley?
What's up, girl?
Says, Mr. Robot sheds a light on many important themes, including mental illness. Could you talk about the organization, NAMI, that you mentioned on social media?
Yes, I would be happy to. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It is an amazing organization. There's actually the NAMI Walk on Saturday in LA. I have a team page if you want to donate. And I actually had Mr. Robot get involved with that too, because I think it is so important. So many people that watch our show too, have some sort of mental illness and have been able to relate to Elliot. And the comments and feedback that we've gotten has been so beyond incredible. I always say, I'm like, they should put on the end of an episode, like, if you or someone else, like, reach out and, put NAMI's website or something. But it's a great, great organization that's, there for anybody experiencing that, like, and families, too.
Yeah. That's a great question. Thank you so much for that. I have
Thank you.
3 more. Perfect. Let's get them all going. First one has a microphone, and it appears to be right here. Go for it.
Hi. One of my favorite things about the show is that every character is very complex, and they're all not necessarily that likable, but they're all very captivating. How do you kind of approach the highs and lows of Darlene and the character growth over time?
Great question. Thank you for that. It's interesting growing with a character and being able to play her throughout seasons. I think really, Sam's writing is so incredible that he makes our job so much easier. But I would say really, for me in my process of acting, like it all does start from the dialogue and just asking questions and of going like, why? And for me too, I always like to think of like, okay, but what's a more interesting choice? And an example I give, is like season 2 when I'm talking to Susan Jacobs and before I kill her, I think people could read that and have the character be like yelling and aggressive. And I thought like, wouldn't it be more interesting if I like got really intimate with her and like spoke quietly and whispered? And so, I think that for me, it's like all about those choices and seeing like, what's not the obvious one and kind of, like really humanize them and then let the dialogue and like the story speak for itself. I don't know if that answered the question.
I think that was a good one. Yeah, thank you. We got time for 2 more. I see you have a microphone. Oh, who has a mic? There you are. Go for it.
Hi. I was wondering what was the most challenging part of shooting this final season, knowing you were going to say goodbye to Darlene.
Well, the most was the last time that I got into hair and makeup and wardrobe with her. I was like, I'm never going to do this again. Especially wearing those clothes. The second I put on my wardrobe, like I'm there and I'm her. That's like all I need. This season, acting-wise and like story-wise, was so challenging. and you know, you'll see why when it comes out. But it was you know, it was the kind of thing where I'm like, I don't want to go to work today. Like, I'm so tired, but I'm like, but I do want to go because like I'm not gonna be able to do this again, you know. And I had talked to Rami about that, where I'm like, this is our last time. Like, we're never gonna have this experience again. So it was really just like milking every second that I could. But yeah, did that answer that?
Yeah, you're crushing it.
Thank you.
These are great answers and great questions, and we've got time for one more. No pressure. Last one. Go for it.
Hi, I love you on the show. I love Darlene and Angela. They're both my favorite characters.
Thank you.
Anyways, my question is, what's been your favorite memory from the show, doing the show, from set or anything, from whatever season?
Dear Lord.
Pick one.
Yeah.
There we go.
Out of 5 years.
That's it.
Oh my God. I could not pick one. It's like I have one from each season. The first thing that pops to my mind though is you know, season 1 when Rami and I were doing our scene when, you know, he kisses me and I say, I'm your sister. I was really nervous about that scene because it could have come off so like soap opera-y and being like, I'm your sister. Right. And, you know, I was just nervous I wasn't gonna be able to get there, and like I was just freaked out. And so I remember like we were on Coney Island and Rami was like, what's your favorite candy? And I said gummy bears. And then I was in hair and makeup and like came back and he filled my trailer with all these gummy bears and like giant gummy bears and all this stuff, and it was very sweet.
That's really sweet. When I read a similar like telling of that, but the article presented it as he pranked you, and he like Rami Malek pranked Carly Chaikin with all the gummy bears, and I was like, oh, that's funny. I wonder if they play a lot of pranks. But no, it was a really sweet gesture, like
Yeah.
to make you feel comfortable and like filled it with your favorite candy.
Yeah.
Oh, internet.
Jargon. Rami is a prankster though.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Did he actually prank you at some point? Did he?
I-
Non-gummy bear? Really?
We I don't know if I can. We
Oh.
mess around on set so much, all of us. Like, people would be very surprised how lighthearted and, like, jokey we are.
You have to be on a show like this,
Have
right?
to be.
Like, yeah.
You're either that or you're like, don't talk to me. Yeah.
He when he won, did you, as a good friend, give him a hard time for winning Best Actor? Did you like tease him, or did you guys celebrate it?
No, we all celebrated, but he also knows that I'm like, we're all like, cool, you won an Oscar. Or we're like, what is...
You got to give him a hard time.
Yeah, what does Oscar winner think about this one?
We're going to let Oscar winner pick lunch today, guys.
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that. That's what you have to do, yeah.
Totally, because he also knows, too, that I'm like, obviously it's amazing that you won an Oscar, but like, I don't really care. I'm like, because I'm like, you're... And I think it's nice for him to, like, we all just see him as him and are like...
Yeah.
Are like, how's the statue?
We're gonna wrap things up, but I got just one more fun little question. Last season, last time on the set, did they let you take anything? Did you get to keep any of the wardrobe? Do you have like a memento to remember Darlene by?
Sam, I kept the back of my chair that says like Darlene and Mr. Robot. Oh, cool. And then Sam actually for my wrap gift got me like a pair of Saint Laurent heart glasses.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again, and not just on the show, but specifically your performance in this character that you've been able to bring to life for all of us. We've loved watching you these last 4 seasons, and I'm super, super excited for whatever project you take on next. You got to come back and talk to us about whatever that is. Guys, I'll remind the world, Mr. Robot, the final season kicks off in just a few short days on USA Network, the 6th. That's right, October 6th. Mr. Robot is back one last time. Speaking of one last time, everybody make a ridiculous amount of noise because this is the great Carly Chaikin right here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.